You know, we see his face on the $100 bill all the time, but who was Benjamin Franklin really? Today, we're going to explore the man who wasn't just a founding father, but in so many ways was the architect of the American character itself. This is a story about relentless invention, passionate community building, and, yeah, the creation of a nation. So, let's dive in. We'll kick things off with his incredible journey as a self-made man, and then we'll get into his genius as a practical inventor. After that, we'll see how he literally built communities from the ground up, became the nation's most vital diplomat, and ultimately left behind this lasting blueprint for what it even means to be an American. And you know, it all started not with a fancy education or family money, but in a noisy workshop. You can just imagine the smell of wax and the spark of pure, unadulterated grit and curiosity. So, was he just some old guy flying a kite in a thunderstorm, or that signature on the Declaration of Independence? Well, yeah, but the real Benjamin Franklin was so much more complex, and frankly, a whole lot more interesting. We tend to picture him as this, static, formal figure, a statesman kind of frozen in time. But the reality, it was way more dynamic. This guy was a restless, relentless problem solver, a true polymath who taught himself and mastered countless fields just through sheer force of will. He didn't just live in the world, he was actively trying to reshape it, every single day.
His life wasn't just handed to him, it was forged. Forged in that simple candlemaker shop and fueled by a curiosity that never, ever dimmed and a work ethic that just wouldn't quit. I mean, this is the very foundation of his rise from total obscurity to the world stage. It is the definition of a self-made man.
Okay, so now let's see how that boundless curiosity of his translated directly into his work as an inventor. He was all about turning these abstract ideas into tangible solutions that actually improved people's daily lives.
Franklin had this really distinct process, almost like his own personal algorithm for innovation. First, he'd spot a real-world problem that he or his neighbors were facing. Then he'd just dive deep into the science behind it. And finally, he'd engineer a practical, often elegant solution. See, for him, knowledge was never the end goal. It was always a tool. It wasn't just about knowing something. It was about doing something with it.
And the results of this method, they were absolutely revolutionary. The lightning rod wasn't just some quirky experiment. It tamed a terrifying force of nature, saving countless homes and lives. The Franklin stove, it used convection to heat rooms way more efficiently. And bifocals? He literally invented bifocals because he loved to read and got personally frustrated with having to constantly switch his glasses to see near and far. Every single invention was driven by this one powerful idea: knowledge has to serve humanity. But his ingenuity wasn't just limited to physical objects. He applied that exact same problem-solving mindset to the biggest invention of all, society itself. He was a true community builder. He was completely convinced that, for a republic to work, its citizens needed free access to information and ideas. So, what did he do? He didn't wait for the government. He just got his friends and neighbors together and created the very first subscription library, building a community around shared knowledge.
When he saw houses in Philadelphia constantly burning down, he didn't just feel bad about it. He saw a systems problem, a completely disorganized response. So he engineered a solution: America's first volunteer fire department. It became a blueprint for how to organize citizens for the common good.
And he didn't stop there. He saw a need for an education that was practical, one that prepared young people for life as citizens and workers, not just for the clergy. The result of that idea was the foundation for what would become the University of Pennsylvania, an institution built to serve the whole community. All right, now we're getting to the climax of his career, the nation's diplomat. This is where Franklin takes all his skills as a problem solver, a scientist, a community builder, and puts them on the world stage to secure the future of the United States. No big deal, right? I mean, this timeline really shows his incredible evolution. He starts out as a colonial agent in London, trying to patch things up with Britain. When that completely fails, he helps draft the Declaration of Independence. Then comes his absolute masterpiece of diplomacy in France, and he caps off his long career as the steady, wise voice of an elder statesman at the Constitutional Convention. It was truly a lifetime of service.
So how did he actually succeed in France, when the entire American Revolution was hanging in the balance? Well, it wasn't just his political arguments. In Europe, his scientific reputation was huge. He was basically a global celebrity, the man who had tamed lightning. He masterfully used that fame, along with his legendary wit and personal charm, as powerful diplomatic tools to win over the French court and the public.
And the result of that incredible performance boiled down to this: one single decisive alliance. Securing military and financial support from France was, arguably, the most critical factor in America winning the Revolutionary War. Without Franklin's unique diplomatic genius, the outcome could have been drastically different.
So let's bring it all together and look at his lasting blueprint. How do all these different roles, inventor, builder, diplomat, combine to create this archetype of the American character? You know, if there's one word that truly captures him, it's polymath. His expertise just refused to stay in one box. As we've seen, he was a world-class scientist who created civic institutions, a brilliant writer who was also a master diplomat. This ability to connect ideas from wildly different fields, that was the true source of his unique genius.
At the end of the day, if you distill Franklin's entire life down to its core elements, you get this blueprint. It's this powerful combination of intelligence that's fueled by relentless curiosity, an industrious spirit that's committed to pragmatic work, and above all else, a deep and unwavering dedication to the public welfare, the common good.
He never stopped asking how the world worked, and, more importantly, how he can make it better. He literally built the tools, the institutions, and even the nation he wanted to see. And that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. What blueprint are we leaving behind?